Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and like I said earlier today, we are going to be doing some more New World coverage. I brought in Brian from Work to Game Ginger Prime. How you doing, Brian?
Dude, I am doing good. It's hard to believe that we're less than 24 hours from filming this to the launch, but you're actually ahead of me because you get to go roll on the UK servers, so I'm a little jealous that I'm not.
EU, it's Central Europe, not UK. Thank you very much.
I don't know. Ignorant American, what is up with you?
Yeah. But so we have a couple of things that we wanted to bring up, namely a couple of tips for new players and, just something to get you guys started into the game and also to answer potential questions that you guys might have. I already did a video with, explaining like the business model and the server structure and all of these things. But before we actually get started, I'd like to ask you, Brian, what exactly, like if you had to put it into a sentence, what is the most important thing for you about New World? Like why does this game has its hooks in you?
It's interesting because I'm an old school Final Fantasy XI player, and what New World does, I think, is it separates itself from what current MMO trends have been, which is very instance-based, very kind of instance, specific, where New World brings you right back out into the open world for all the combat, for all, just the crafting and gathering. You see tons of players running around the game at any one point in time. And for me, it just brought me back to that nostalgia of first stepping out into Bastok. I made my first character in Final Fantasy XI Bastok, but eventually I went over to Windurst, and now I play in Sandy. Long story, not point of this video, but just stepping out in that world and seeing players and chopping down trees and fighting over kills. Yes, there's going to be I think there's going to be a little bit of heartburn from players who are used to having the game tailored to them. Like here's my instance loot, here's my instance kill. That's not this. You're going to kill an animal, like an animal, and if you can go skin it, you can. Somebody could go up and steal your skin if you're not capable, in that regard. So
not just that, but like I've actually had players, like after I'm fighting like 3-4 mobs, and someone will come in and just like as I'm still finishing off the remaining 2, they're just like, "Yep, I'll take that." And just like
I'll take that. I'll run around through the world and I'll see like drops and things like that. Like, oh, there's a thing here, and I'll look around to see if anybody's near. Meaning, like, I don't want to take somebody's kill, but then it's like usually like, oh, somebody just killed this and ran off and didn't bother skinning it. So I just kind of like, all right, might as well help myself increase my skinning skill while I'm at it.
So I guess one of our first tips would be always pay attention to your surroundings. You never know what you might find, even just like from stuff that other players just didn't bother to really skin or leave behind or whatever, or gather specific items or whatnot. A lot of the things out in the world of New World are actually interactable. So like you can chop down trees, you can pick up flint and stone, you can mine ores, you can do all of these different things. So always pay attention, because something that you're looking at might just be a resource. Just hover your mouse over it and be like, oh, I can pick this thing up. And a lot of the times things will be useful. However, if they happen not to be useful, what should we do with them then, Brian?
Well, if they're not useful, you can probably most likely sell them on the markets themselves. That would be kind of a real key aspect. It's interesting. Each city's market is unique. So you can search other cities' economies, but you can't. But if you're going to purchase from those or sell from those, you actually have to go to those specific cities to be able to buy and sell. And so if you're sitting here just like, hey, I'm chopping down trees, which you absolutely should, especially I think that's where it got my hooks in me when I first chopped down my first tree. But as you level up, you'll actually get gear with perks on it, which will not only are you harvesting trees or boar or, hemp or something, but you're actually going to be getting a Zoth from certain perks on your gear, which is just going to help feed you this currency, which is allowing you to teleport, but you can also use that currency to infuse into gear to unlock even more perks. So it's going to have a huge value to you. So I would recommend, kind of as a second tip in the world, if you're not having fun, just throw this out, but try to get everything just as a base, harvesting and logging and whatnot, to level 50, because that's going to open you up to a lot of stuff later down the road. So that way, when you're running around and you're all of a sudden seeing all these level 50 trees and up, you're not going to have to sit here and say like, well, I can't do anything. I have to go all the way back to the beginning and start harvesting some of these young trees just so I can increase my harvesting skill. So as you're going about it, I would just say make time to go ahead and start working on either all your gathering tools or at least a handful of them.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't necessarily have to engage in the system. Like if you just want to focus on combat and whatnot, you can.
right.
But at the same time, it's like, I feel like you should try a little bit of everything, because even if in other MMOs maybe gathering wasn't really your thing, the way that they kind of do it in New World feels a little bit different. Like just the fact that you can see another player actually chopping down the tree and you see the tree falling down. It has a bit of it's something that you don't see often. Usually it's just a node, and then the node disappears, and then a node reappears. And in essence, I feel like in New World, it's kind of the same thing, but you actually see it physically breaking down, and there's actually physics associated with it and stuff.
And you don't see that tree respawn, and so you can sit here and wait a while. I think what ends up happening is that it ends up spawning as a sproutling, and then it grows so slowly. But overall, like you can actually come upon a forest that players have strip mined, and it's gone. And you're like, oh, there used to be trees here. What happened? And I think that's something that I think MMO players have long craved in a game like this. Like they have some form of agency. And yes, that things return. It's an eternal world. Eternum is the name of the place. So ultimately, it is what you say. But it's just happening subtly behind the scenes. So you end up having, I think, that real, it kind of feels like you actually are impacting the world.
So experimentation, I feel like, is one of the key things. You guys should experiment, try gathering, try combat, even try crafting, even though crafting usually is not really for me. I don't know how much I'm going to engage in crafting with New World, because you can also get like gear from dungeons and stuff like that. So it's not like it's mandatory. It's all just options that you have, and it's cool to experiment with them. But one of the things that I always like to bring up, particularly when it comes to MMOs, and this is a tip that has served me very well in Final Fantasy XIV, and this is going to be counter-intuitive to a lot of people when it comes to MMO experiences, but take your time. Like, genuinely, take your time. Don't feel all of that FOMO or fear of missing out that everybody's going to feel at the very start of the game. It's like, I gotta go fast, gotta get the 60, 60 is the cap, right? I believe.
Yeah, 60 is the level cap, and then each of your your weapons cap at 20. So like you level up your weapons as you play them around. There's 11 launching ones, and then your skill crafts and you're gathering all that cap at 200. And so those are the various caps that they have in the game. So yeah, like I would say definitely don't rush it. Just enjoy the experience, because you're going to have it. Like that's where I think WoW has kind of in a way poisoned a lot of like the design. And so New World in a way I think is going to get a lot of like flack and a lot of like kickback from players who rush to Endgame and then all of a sudden realize that Endgame actually started at level 1, and now they have to kind of go back to these lower end zones and level them up as well. So like there's going to be like, you're going to see the drama time on the internet, because players are trained like, oh, the real game opens up at Endgame, and then they're going to get there and they're like, the real game was with you all along.
Yeah, it's like really just basically try to take your time. Don't do the thing that players tend to do with most MMOs. Just like, gotta rush it, gotta get to the end, go. That go mentality, I feel like a lot of times is actually a bad thing for MMOs. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, guys, I'm gonna be playing the second the servers open here in Europe. But if I wasn't creating content for the game, I probably wouldn't. Like, I would not get up early just to start playing when the server is open, because it's most likely going to be a bit of a mess in the first couple of days with people trying to log in and get their names and get their guild started and organize all of their stuff. But another thing that I would say is, if you have friends that are playing with you, you guys need to decide which server and which faction you're going to be playing in ahead of time. Because if you're in a different faction, you're going to be fighting against each other as opposed to cooperating with each other. You're probably not going to be you're not going to be able to be in the same, like, what's the guild's equivalent of this? Yeah, the same company.
They're called company, yeah.
You're not going to be able to be in the same company, because companies are based around the different factions of the game. And if you're not in the same server, you're not even going to be able to see each other. So these are things that you need to establish from the get-go. Are we playing US West, US East? Which specific server on US West, US East? Those are things that you really need to figure out ahead of time.
Absolutely. And so you do, and you can change your faction after 120 days. So just note that it is going to be much easier to sit here and text your friends being like, are we going Covenant? Are we going Marauders? Or are we going to Syndicate? Covenant's yellow, Marauders are green, Syndicate is purple, and this is going to play into the overall sandbox of the game. Well, you could say the end game that starts at level 1. You participating in your faction is going to help give points to that zone, and then ultimately allows you to control it, tax it, or do other things in that regard. So just note that your faction's important. You kind of can skip it if you just didn't care, but there are so many things that are going to be locked to you from the faction,
locked away
selection.
from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't choose a faction, basically. Yeah. So another thing is, even though we are telling you to take your time, one of the things that you shouldn't neglect is the main quest. Now, initially, New World did not start as a theme park MMO. It was going to be more of the sandbox type of thing. But since then, they've been changing their design around, listening to community feedback, and they seem to have landed on a much more theme park style MMO, which basically means there is a main quest that takes you through several zones of the game, and you should engage with that main quest because that is going to eventually give you access to a key item that you are going to need in order to participate in certain events further down the line.
So what happens, just like if you would think from Final Fantasy's Fate system or Guild Wars 2, how they have their, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on it, their events that kind of
Fates?
pop up. What's up?
Fates?
Guild Wars 2's called Fates as
Guild
well?
Wars 2. No, Guild Wars 2 is just events.
Yeah, okay. So you have events, fates, essentially that real-time worldwide phenomenon. Now, you can participate in these, but in order to close the various portals that open up that let in corruption to try and take over the land, you need that key item. And once you have that key item, you can actually then participate in actually closing it. So the risk is if you don't have the key item and you end up being the only one, or you and somebody else are running and neither of you have the key item, you can go fight all the enemies all you want, but you're not going to win because you need that specific item. And then you'd be waiting for somebody to come along and hopefully help do that. So I would, highly recommend at least to start getting that key item. It happens actually fairly quickly, so you wouldn't have to worry too much. I think around level 18 or 20, if I remember correctly. But also at that time, you'll start to rank up in that specific zone. And I would also recommend that as soon as you can, you want to unlock a house. And a house is going to cost you 5,000, gold or, coin in this case. And so that's not insignificant, especially when starting out. But what that house is going to give you especially down the road, is perks and the ability to teleport to it every 2.5 hours or something like that. And the better house you get, the faster that cooldown time on teleport's going to be. And what that will do is that will free you up to have your end room as well. So ultimately you can have 3 houses and end room. You can be able to jump around the game much faster as you unlock these benefits and these perks in these zones.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've been meaning to ask for your advice in regards to which perks should people focus on, because as you level up in a specific zone, this is an interesting concept here in New World, which is whenever you roll up in a zone, for starters, not every player starts in the same zone. There's I don't know if it's 4 or 5 different zones.
There's 4.
There's four
zones.
4 starting zones in a tournament so that they don't want to have the entire population of a server all in one zone. And so as you begin your quest in these zones, eventually they start funneling up and you start kind of getting on the same path as the rest of the other players. But before you get to that point, you're going to be leveling up in certain zones. And as you level up and just do activities in those zones, you're going to get these things that I believe they're called territory points, right? And these will allow you to actually get specific perks when you're on that zone. Now, I've actually been thinking whether or not you should invest those into, EXP bonuses or gathering bonuses, because eventually you will get to max level. So is it going to be worth it to even have EXP bonuses? Would it be better to just get bonuses to gathering items and stuff like that? What's your thoughts?
Since there's no post level 60 value for experience yet. And I say that's feedback that I like to provide, especially I love XP, and whenever XP dries up or becomes pointless, then I'm let's find a system for that. I would avoid XP bonuses because of that fact. Now, once those if they bring in a system that rewards that, then my tip would change. So if you're listening to this years in the future and you're but Brian, they've added X system, just note that if that gets systems added, this will be value. But crafting bonuses, your storage on your local, so you can increase the storage capacity for that town. And that's actually a real key factor, because when you teleport using Azoth, it factors in your weight. So if you're carrying around a lot of materials, teleporting from one place to the next, it's going to cost you more Azoth to do so. So having a good storage amount in the town is going to be critical. Plus, when you go to craft in the town, you pull from your storage of that town. You don't actually have to have it on you as a player. You can just kind of funnel everything into your storage and then craft. And then the other side of it is you can also increase your faction standing gain, increase as well. So I would recommend going anything that's faction or crafting, gathering, and storage over personalized XP, because all of that's still you're gonna get to 60. And again, it's not a rush to 60.
Yeah.
60 is just a number. It's not the goal.
But very important whether you choose to heed our advice or just, no, whatever, I want more experience, I want to get there faster. Sure, just make sure to actually use your territory points, because, if you're just playing the game, sometimes I feel like it can be easy to just, oh yeah, there's a notification over there with some whatever points, and you just start ignoring. I remember every now and then I would go into the menu and I'd have 4 or 5 points to put in because I was just so focused on leveling. So definitely keep up with that stuff, because it is going to be useful for you. And the game does do a fairly good job of letting you know, hey, you've gotten territory points. Hey, you've gotten a stat point. You've got a level point, whatever. All of these different things, right?
Yes, exactly. It's very rewarding. It feels very like you're getting something at any point, whether it's your weapon, your level, your territory. The game has a really good cadence to it. But you're right. If you're not paying attention, you'll see up at the top bar, it's like, use your points, dadgummit.
So another thing that I would say is try out each of the weapons, because each of the weapons has different movesets. They have different skills. I'd advise you also to check out the skill trees on each of these weapons to see which one suits you the best. Maybe you're more of a rapier and life stab type of dude, or maybe you would want a frost gauntlet mixed with a two-handed axe. But that's one of the things, there are no classes in New World, so you can kind of pick and choose whatever you want. So my advice would definitely be, whenever you get a new weapon, try it out, see what it does, and see if that is something that you would be interested in, because you just might find something that is more interesting to you. And since you're not really locked into anything with the exception of your stat points, because the specific weapons will scale with different stats, and you should check this before you decide, okay, I like this weapon. This weapon's like a strength weapon. This sounds all right. Then you're going to make a commitment to strength, and then you're going to be using more strength weapons. But definitely, I'd say try all of them out to see which one suits your playstyle the best.
What you're going to find also that you don't feel restricted if you want to go with a melee magic build is that things like Amber or Ruby or Topaz, they'll basically say, if you slot that into your weapon, let's say you want to rock a great axe, and yet also you want to take the Ice Gauntlet, and Ice Gauntlet scales off of intelligence. You could, if you wanted to, take all of your points and put them into intelligence and still rock a great axe, and you would just slot Amber into your great axe, because then it says it will use your highest skill that the weapon requires, which great axe would be strength, or it will use your highest stat point of intelligence. So whatever is the highest, it will actually use as its calculator. So you could rock a great axe and an Ice Gauntlet using a Ruby or a Topaz, a gem slotted into your axe. Thus, it will actually scale off your intelligence. Thus, you can actually focus in on one stat and yet still have 2 completely different type weapons.
How long does it usually take you to get these gems and topazes? Because I didn't get.
It's going to be a little bit. You're not going to find them right at the start.
So I had to start try to focus around more simple things, but just know that later down the line you can do some more advanced things with your build. That's interesting. I was not aware of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a system that it's not very vocal, so I'll have a video going on it specifically in a couple of hours. So hopefully people enjoy that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, cool stuff. But those are kind of the tips that I personally had getting into this. I don't know if you have something that you'd like to bring up, Brian, because we wanted to just make a very quick tips video to get people started.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that when you look in your travel time, you want to go try to discover any of these various different quick travel locations. You also want to make use of your camp as often as possible, because it gives you a respawn point. The biggest cost to you, the player, is going to be your travel time, because the world is massive, and you're going to feel how big the world is when you actually have to start running from point A to point B. So finding ways to get around, the game offers it, but it's going to be something that you need to invest in. That's why I still recommend trying to get at least a house right away, at least one, because that's going to give you 2 teleport points plus your camp, plus and then as you start farming up a Zoth, which will start happening around level 15 to 20, you'll see enemies that start dropping that. But overall, that's something that's going to be a big currency, and that will allow you to travel to any town that you've already been to. So that's when you start seeing the world open up. But that's just going to be the best thing that's going to help save you the most time. And yeah, have fun, play around with the different weapons. And ultimately, if you have questions, ask Rory here, ask me, ask any of the people who've been creating content around this game. You can hang out with us. Are you live streaming this, I'm assuming?
Yes, I'm live streaming this tomorrow, the second the servers open up.
Awesome, guys. So go hang out with Rory when he is live. And it should hopefully be a really good time. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. And play around with the different weapons and see what ultimately gets your taste for. And the final tip is go with the skills over the perks when you are leveling up your weapons. You're going to get up to 3 skills. So try to get the skills as the priority, and then you can work on the perks, which will open up and make the skills even better. It feels good having 3 skills versus having no skills. So just note that skills over perks is your first priority when equipping a weapon.
Because basically, if you don't put any skills, then you're just not even auto attacking, because all of the attacks are manual, but you're just doing like basic attacks, and you don't have any buttons to actually press, which is not as entertaining as like, oh no, I have like 3 buttons to press all of these crazy skills. And unlike the very first alpha, now once you get those skills, you can actually put them in cooldown, then swap weapons, then use the skills of the other weapon, then swap back to the first weapon, which is a more interactive system than we initially had, where the weapons kind of like shared cooldowns and whatnot. It was kind of annoying. I'm actually glad they changed that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, lots of good updates over the last year and then some. So I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised, but I also am personally just waiting to see all the, people who are just trolls and they're angry because they're angry gamers. All right, guys, sorry you don't like the game. It's beautiful, and there's something wrong with you as a human being.
We'll see what happens with the community on that one, guys. As per usual, there's going to be links to all of Brian's stuff in the description of this video, so that you guys can go check him out as well. You're going to be live streaming the launch on the US side of things, right?
That's right, NA East on the Eden server. I'm going to be live. I'm actually going to be live streaming Tuesday and Wednesday. To kick back and try to get as much. I'm going to have to work to not be distracted completely by fishing. So you might end up, if you come by my stream, you might end up just seeing me leveling up fishing. I don't know why.
Angler Brian.
The angler, just get the old hat and beer, there it is. But it's 2 a.m, Brian.
Listen, I just got to get this one trout that's been evading me this whole time. But
call him the Gipper.
That's gonna be fun. So if you guys are looking for like a company to join, I believe you're running a company right over there on Eden in, you said US East, right?
US East, baby.
Yeah, yep. US East Eden. I am going to be going over to Central Europe's Nav. I picked the server called Nav because I figured if I would try to go into a server called Midgard or Niflheim, it would probably be like chuck full of people. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna take Nav. There, this one's nice and simple, 3 letters, NAV. You can find me there, hopefully, unless that server explodes before the game launches. We'll see how that works out. But that should be it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep your shields up, Iron Breakers. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.